Hi, welcome. Today I'm going to talk about identifying and applying to a four-year college or a university and choosing the school that is the best fit for you. My name is Kristen Zukowski. I'm the director of one of our summer programs, High Step, and also a pre-medical advisor. So I'm going to start by talking about some common college myths. So oftentimes people talk about colleges that are good or bad. That's really not true. It's more important that you go somewhere that is the best fit for you. Future employers and graduate schools give an edge to graduates of prestigious universities. Again, it's more about what you do while you are there. So if you do really well at a smaller school or at a school where people might not recognize the name of that school, that's actually going to benefit you more in the future as you're applying to jobs and graduate schools. Schools that cost more are of higher quality. Again, not necessarily. And private schools are more expensive than public schools. I'll talk about this a little bit more when we talk about financing, but often private schools have more financial aid to give to you. And so it's not the case that private schools are always more expensive once you factor that in. So here's the outline for today. First, we'll talk about how to know yourself and then how to know and find information about colleges. And then the third piece is going to be identifying that relationship and figuring out where you would do really well and where you want to go. So some tips as we're going through this process. First is really not to limit yourself. Keep an open mind. Be really honest with yourself. Who are you? What do you want to get out of college? Where will you do best? And doing your homework. So that means researching online, talking to people who know you really well. That could be professors, that could be high school teachers, that could be friends and family, and talking to people at the colleges in which you're interested. So doing informational interviews. Lots of things are virtual right now. Many schools have virtual Q&A sessions, virtual admissions sessions, so take advantage of all of those things. So the first step is really identifying who you are and choosing a college that is right for you, not for anyone else. And so the college of best fit, you're going to take into account the academics, the location, the cost, and the lifestyle. There's a great book by Frank Bruni that has some really amazing stories and experiences and statistics that is called Where You Go Is Not Who You'll Be. And so trying not to think about who you are based on your school, but instead really what you want to get out of it and where you will do really well. So the first piece is the academics. Do you want to go to a liberal arts school, a place that has an honors college or a big research institution? What is the academic environment like and what are the academic offerings? I want you to choose a school where the level of academic pressure is good for you without being too frustrated or stressed out, a place where you're going to get what you need and do well. Sometimes more scholarly schools are going to have really a tremendous workload. You're going to need to prioritize well. Some schools are more competitive than others, and some really have a more intellectual or scholarly emphasis. Other schools, there's a better balance of social life on campus. And so thinking about all of these things, do you thrive on pressure? Do they have your intended major? The second thing is about location. So by location, I really mean where in the country and what type of environment. Are you interested in an urban school in a city? This would be like in DC, American, Howard, Georgetown. A suburban school, so just outside the city, maybe you have access to the city, but you're not in a city. So something like the University of Maryland College Park. Or do you prefer a more rural environment? This is the type of school I went to, and I was really happy there. I was less distracted by other things. There was a lot more green space to be outside, and so I enjoyed really being in the country. This would be something like Mount St. Mary's. The third piece is the cost. We talked a little bit about public versus private schools. Also in-state versus out-of-state. And cost is not just the tuition of the school. So it includes things like dorms, food, plane tickets home. If you're really far away from your family, you need to take those things into account. How often are you going to be able to make it home? And the sticker price. So I would encourage you, for all of the schools to which you are considering, take a look at the net price calculator on the school's website. They are required to show you what the total cost would be when you take all of these things into account, not the plane ticket, but everything else, all of their student fees, tuition, dorms, meal plan, all of those things. So I would encourage you to take a look there and using studentaid.gov to get a sense of the sticker price. Taking into account financial aid. So as community college students, you are probably all very familiar with the FAFSA. So you're going to need to fill out the FAFSA again for these schools. Private schools, many use something called the CSS profile. It's a slightly different algorithm, many more questions. So that's something to be aware of too as you're applying to these schools. They look and give you aid, sometimes merit versus the need-based aid. Take a look at your financial aid package. Is it a grant or is it a loan? And are those loans subsidized or unsubsidized? So subsidized loans, the federal government actually pays your interest while you're in school. They don't start accruing interest until after you graduate or after that grace period, whereas unsubsidized loans actually start accruing interest the moment you withdraw that and get that money. So something to be aware of too. And you don't have to take all of the aid. So let's say they give you a certain amount of loan money. That doesn't mean you have to borrow all of that money if it's not necessary. Sometimes private schools do have more money to give financial aid. They have a lot more flexibility when it comes to things like that. And so don't shy away from applying to private schools just because the sticker price is higher. You really won't know what they have to offer you until you see your financial aid package. And so you can do that also using that net price calculator. It'll give you an estimate of what your financial aid package might look like based on previous years and previous students that sort of look like you. It asks for a couple of questions about your parents and your finances, and then it will give you an estimate. Again, it's not guaranteed, but it will give you an idea of what your package would look like. And also start considering scholarships. There are lots of places that really have money and want to give it to you. So I put a couple of websites here that might be helpful to you. So look there. I don't think you should pay money for these services. There are lots of free ones. And so use these sites to type in the type of scholarships you might be looking for. There are scholarships for transfer students, scholarships for first-generation students, scholarships based on different backgrounds, interests, majors, plans for the future. So I would encourage you to take a look and see what there is at these websites so that you can get all of the money that you need and that you deserve to go to college. The next piece is lifestyle. What type of size are you interested in? A smaller school, these often have more student-professor interactions, more discussions. Sometimes you have a more personal connection to your professors, especially from an earlier stage. And so that could benefit you in the future as far as recommendation letters, personal development. At some smaller schools, teaching is a higher priority. So sometimes the teaching is better. And depending on the extracurricular activity you're interested in, you might not have to be a superstar to join a club team as opposed to, say, a D1 school. Smaller classes, often it's a closer environment. You're going to see lots of people on campus that you know and that you recognize, as opposed to a larger school or a much larger school where you need to really be able to listen to be able to learn. There are more activities, larger classes, if you like to blend in with the crowd, and if sports teams are important to you, if you really like to go and participate or watch those things, that's something to be aware of at a bigger school. Some other factors to consider: what are the housing choices? What are the housing options for transfer students? What is the student body makeup? What types of extracurriculars are available? And what's the diversity on that campus? So I would recommend that you make a chart that looks something like this. Put at the top must have, want, or don't care. So think about the couple of most important things to you that you really must have to be happy on a campus. So things like, do you want medium to small classes? Do you want to be far from home or close from home? Do you need a really great pre-med advisor? Some things you might want: work study in an urban setting. Maybe you don't want too much pressure and you don't want the school to be too large. You don't want your classes to be too large, and you don't really care about the weather or location. These other things are more important to you. Okay, so now that you know a little bit about what you are looking for, now it's important to figure out what colleges fit that profile. So what I would recommend is that you use the Big Future College search and build a list. Maybe start with 2 or 3 states and go through this filtering system and bookmark your list. So the way that this works is it has a bunch of filters on the left-hand side, and you can go through, and for each one of these things, it asks you what you want, and it asks you if you must have it, you want it, or you don't care, and then it'll give you a list of schools. So you might find schools on here that you've never considered or you've never heard of, and so then your next step would be doing research on those schools to see if it might be a good fit for you. A couple places that you can research schools. One is using the FISC guide. So this is a really fantastic book that has quotes from students, information you really won't find on a school's website, but it's from the student perspective, gives you a clear sense of what that environment is like and what is important to the students on that campus. Again, taking advantage of the virtual opportunities, virtual tours, virtual information sessions. Reading the student newspaper can sometimes give you a sense of what's important on that campus. What are students thinking about? What do they care about? And is that in line with what you are thinking about and what you care about? Visiting if possible, when it is safe to do so. I think if you're able to visit a school just by stepping on the campus and walking from building to building, walking across the quad, you can get a sense of what it feels like on that campus. So if it's possible, again, and you can do that in a safe way, I would recommend that. But if not, there are lots of virtual opportunities for you and virtual tours. Okay, the third step is really identifying this relationship. So looking at the transfer agreements, looking at the transfer requirements, any prerequisites that you need to have to be able to finish your major in the timeline that you hope to. For example, the University of Maryland, for transfer students, they want you to have a course that is equivalent of English 101 and Math 110. So being aware of those types of things before you start trying to transfer. What supports do they have for transfer students? What orientations, what advisors? Make sure you're going somewhere that is going to support you throughout this process. So start now. Get to know your professors. It's important for letters of recommendation for transferring, for networking. And this is a person that if they know you well and you know them well, they can help you identify your strengths and where you would do well. Do well in all of your classes so that they transfer, and so you have the understanding that you need to do well in these higher level classes once you transfer. Practice your time management, your wellness techniques, and your study skills. Again, so that you can be successful once you get to your college or university of choice. Go visit your transfer office, go visit your advisors, make sure that you are on track to have the courses that you need to be able to transfer well. Oftentimes, the community colleges and the advisors know what the four-year colleges and universities that are local are looking for, and so they can often help you identify your gaps and your weaknesses and help you fill those. One of the most common questions that I get asked is, where should I apply and how many? So of course it depends, but I always recommend you apply to at least 1 or 2 in-state. This is so you can get in-state tuition, and hopefully your community college has an agreement or an understanding with that school. A few less selective schools that you would have a good chance of getting into. Limit the number of highly selective schools. So I always say a maximum of 3, and do those 3 really well. And finally, as many as you can do well. I would much prefer you to apply to fewer schools and take the time to have a really fantastic application so that you have the best chance of getting into those schools. Some resources I have for you. Studentaid.gov is a great resource. Colleges That Change Lives, FIS Guide, College Match is a great book, as well as Admission Matters, Where You Go Is Not Who You'll Be. College Essay Guy has lots of free resources for writing your personal statement, writing your transfer statement. And if you are interested in a much longer version of this talk, I did it this past summer. It's called Applying to College, and it is targeted for high school students applying to college the first time. However, there are many things in that talk that might be helpful to you. How to get recommendation letters, how to write your personal statement, some other things, how to show demonstrated interest. So thank you for listening. Good luck. Some final thoughts: use resources and ask for help. This means throughout college and your career, and really find out what is best for you and work hard to get there. So be well, stay safe, and enjoy college and your transfer experience.